2, 1. To begin. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning to all the viewers, especially to our guest, dear Subramania. Thank you for beginning this live interaction, or if I may call it, our musical conversation with a Ganesha Stuti. And I believe that is the tradition, or typically this is how a Carnatic music concert begins. We normally begin invoking the blessings of Lord Ganesha. Dear Subramanya Shastri, welcome back to your alma mater. Glad to host you back in your campus, if not offline, the virtual campus of Christ, deemed to be University, Bangalore. We at the School of Commerce, Finance and Accountancy are proud and honored to invite one of our former students who's performing for us today. We're really happy to know that today you are not just probably an analytics professional, business analytics professional, but also an established musician who happens to associate with the Ministry of Culture, Government of Australia, performing and giving live concerts, conducting healing or mental health sessions, especially in the past 25 to 30 months post-pandemic. And that is exactly what prompted or what made us reconnect with you to learn from you through this exclusive YouTube channel of the School of Commerce, Finance and Accountancy. Moreover, it is a Sunday after the mid-semester examination at Christ. So we need to sort of rewind and unwind our lives and break from all our routines and offer something lighter for our stakeholders, especially for our students whom we value the most. So thank you once again for joining us this morning. For you, I guess it is already afternoon, maybe around 5 hours, 30 minutes ahead of Indian time. Well, music is considered as a universal language of emotion, and it has this huge potential to connect human minds. It is beyond any sort of barriers. Let's just take our case. I am at Bangalore, you are in Melbourne, but we connect primarily because of our interest and emotions for music or emotions in music. And that's probably why we all are able to equally enjoy the concert of Pandit Ravi Shankar or the tabla maestro Zakir Hussain the same way we enjoy the another genre of music, that of Yanni or Peter Buka, or the enjoy the band Shakti. So it is this universality of music which gives them all a sort of a global reception or an acceptance. For most of us, since music ensues and encapsulate our changing emotions, we have chosen this topic for discussion today, or rather, I would prefer to call it a conversation today, with, of course, performances in between. The theme is music matters. And it has got two connotations. Music do matter is one way of looking at it, and the matters of music, because music is closely intertwined with our emotions. We are basically interested to learn from you how music heals, because that's, I believe, an area which you are currently also working on. While we'll be glad to listen to a lot of your performances too in between our conversations, would be interested um, to learn more about your musical interventions for mental health. So before I invite our guest, let me introduce who I am, I think, which is something which I forgot to do. I'm Rishikesh. I personally love music, or loves to promote art, music, and literature, and I represent the Department of Commerce um, at Christ University, Bangalore. And the little bit of tutelage and the exposure that I received in music and literature during my childhood is probably the reason how I got connected with you, Mr. Subramania, who's a flautist, currently based out of Australia. He did his bachelor's BCom at Christ University, Bangalore, at the Department of Commerce. And on various occasions, we were fortunate to associate with you, and we've hosted events together. Um, we do it mostly out of our interest and passion, and not for with any other intention. So great appreciation for you, Subramania, for joining us this morning. Subramania, after completing bachelor's, I understand that you worked with the corporate for almost a year and more, and left to Australia for higher studies, completed master's at Deakin University, and worked as accountant at GPC Asia Pacific at Melbourne, which later I think you switched your career, I think, which you can speak about on your own. More about your musical journey can be explored in the discussions ahead, because that's the highlight of the discussion. To know more about you, to know more about your profession, your passion. So let's begin with this very fundamental question. How did you get into music? Or maybe you can tell us a bit about your journey from where you began, who were your gurus, where all have you performed, maybe some significant memories in that musical journey. Because I remember somewhere reading about you that you were also a part of a cultural exchange program during your, while you were studying at Christ. And now I also get to see a lot of collaborations in your social media status with musicians, both Indian and international. So let's begin with this conversation You can take us through your musical experiences, a sort of a journey through your personal, professional, and musical life.
Um, First of all, so thank you so much for having me here in presenting this session as a discussion. And before I begin, I would definitely like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land where I am being seated today, and then yourself, and pay my respects to the elders of past, present, and emerging. So, in saying so, a bit of an introduction about myself. As you have already mentioned, I was a part of Christ University, because of which I'm sitting here today. And coming to my music journey, it was my mother who was, I think, more interested than me in learning this instrument initially. So, thanks to her for making me, pushing me towards this instrument at an initial stage. And I did learn under several teachers, and my first teacher was Vidwan AP Sarvottam sir, and then I continued on with Raj Kamal sir, and I have learned with several other reputed artists of Indian, South Indian Carnatic classical music, and I'm still continuing to learn. In terms of where I have performed or how I developed myself or how I became more passionate about this instrument, I I fairly remember it was during my school days, because when I started learning, I was still probably in my second or third grade, and it was just about learning. But when I came into school where we had like cultural activities happening, that's where I got an opportunity to present. And when I got the opportunity to present, I learned what a unique instrument I was learning, because it was really hard to see any other person playing flute around. I think the most common instruments that we see even these days, though we come from the southern part of India, is like guitar, keyboard, or the Western classical instruments. And learning Carnatic and going to a school, it's like, oh, you're singing Sarigama Padanisa, why don't you sing some Bollywood songs, all this, whatnot. But eventually, we all end up learning that once you know one form of art the right way, you can interpret any other form of music. And I would say I'm an example of this, because, as you rightly mentioned, I started learning Carnatic music and I'm still learning. But after developing in one form of music, I was able to easily translate all other forms of music. And I have been performing around with so many different genres of music. Like, if I have to give an example, I play at the jazz labs or the jazz bars in Melbourne with some jazz bands, and I've traveled with some Afghani musicians around Australia. I've played with Bangladeshi people, and of course, I've played some Western classical concerts. And even when I was studying at Christ, I got the opportunity to play with the Christ choir. So, all these are little examples that can always motivate us to learn one thing the right way. And if we become the master of it, then there is always endless opportunities. And I'm just trying to recollect the order of questions that I got, and I think I've answered few, but I'm still thinking which are the ones that I haven't.
I think you also had this experience of going abroad for a student exchange program as part of the cultural exchange.
This was actually from the Department of Cultural Relations. This was a central government program that happened in Malaysia. So I had an opportunity to perform for ICCR, that is Indian Council for Cultural Relations in Malaysia. So that was while I again studied at Christ University. I got this opportunity to go and perform. I think that was one of the memorable shows that I can always hold with me.
I think we also forgot to mention about Professor D. Remini sir, Udamalur Janardhanan sir, and so many other gurus under whom you've had training. Probably a little more about your gurus from whom you have learned and imbibed the idea of expressing through this instrument.
Yes, sir, absolutely. So as I started with, as I said, like I started with Sarvottam sir and then moved on to Raj Kamal sir, and then I still am in touch with everyone. And I also got a unique opportunity to learn and also had one opportunity to perform along with one doctor in Ramani sir, and I had a very good opportunity to briefly learn from Kudumalur Janardhanan sir, who is from Kerala, and that was a completely different experience, which I will always remember. And I've also learned from Mysore, a Chandan Kumar sir, and the great flautist Shashank Subramaniam. And I briefly had a period where I learned under Jayanti Kumaresh and
Oh,
Kumaresh sir as well for a few concerts. So the list goes on, and then of course I have learned from Vidwan Anur Anantakrishna Sharma sir. So he has been a mentor to me all along, and I'm still continuing to learn, and then I do learn online now from India whenever I get an opportunity. So and I did learn singing. I learned Carnatic classical singing for a brief period of time, and that was under Vidwan D.V. Nagarajan sir, and most of them were in Bangalore, except Dr. N. Ramani sir, and Shashank Subramaniam sir is based out of Chennai.
wonderful. So I think we could proceed with the next question is about the nature and the surprises that it offers. Now, if you observe the nature, you would find that a black cow eating green grass gives us white milk. Similarly, the flow of wind produces natural music, which is quite soothing, and that's one of the reasons why, from the clutter and the routines of an urban life or a city life, we take a break often to the destinations nearby. So nature is full of such surprises. An instrument like flute or bansuri is also a contribution or probably an invention of man from the inspirations from the nature, right? So the instrument is made of wood or bamboo, usually with seven finger holes and one thumb hole. You could correct me if I'm wrong, and technically I'm not very sound, producing a sort of a diatonic scale, and is probably the simplest of the musical instrument man has ever invented. But what I'm interested is not the technical part of it, but there is a huge philosophy behind this. And somebody I read about this instrument that this is an instrument which is hollow and empty. The flute does not produce any sound of her own, and which has got a philosophical connotation too. Even in the religious scriptures, in Krishna's avatar, the Lord fulfilled his love for music with this most melodious instrument called the flute, right? So someone once asked to the flute. I mean, these are all references from the conversations with Krishna, and in which uh, someone asked the flute, "Oh flute, what meritorious deeds did you perform that the Lord always keeps you with him and places you on his lips?" The Lord's flute replied, "Before I became a flute, I was a bamboo rod, part of a tree rooted in the ground. And as soon as I sprouted, I had to bear the heat, the sun, the rain, and every other facet of nature. I practiced many other austerities too. And after much penance, I was uprooted and cut and had to suffer more pain. Then I was pierced not once, but 7 times. I bore all this silently. And this, I believe, is a beautiful manifestation of the ebb and flow of life, right? It's hollow and empty. The flute does not produce any sound of her own. The Lord breathes life into her, and in accordance with his wishes, the musical notes, no streams forth from her. Yep. So it talks. There is a huge philosophy too behind this instrument. Just as the unwanted notes sometimes originate in our own minds, when we sit in to play, there are a lot of unwanted thoughts too, which comes. So the philosophical part of it is that you need to keep aside all your unwanted egocentric tunes sometimes to come out refreshed, right? So I believe there is a natural symbolism in this instrument called flute, which makes this instrument quite unique and distinct. So I just want you, maybe for the interest of the audience too, to tell us a bit about this instrument, adding to it maybe with a little bit of an illustration with a performance too. First, you can illustrate about the instrument and then probably an illustration with the performance.
Sure, sir. So that was actually a beautiful explanation, and it is the first time that I have heard that. So I would definitely love to read a lot more about that. And in terms of this instrument, as you rightly mentioned, it is a bamboo. It is a part of a bamboo bush, and we have um, we have so many different types of bamboos at different parts of the country. And when we come to the south, we always prefer to have the bamboo with the natural knots in it. So this is a typical South Indian bamboo flute. So this is bamboo, and then this has the natural ending in comparison to a North Indian bamboo flute, which is still bamboo, but we don't have a natural ending. We tend to, I'm not sure if I can demonstrate this on the camera, but there is a cork inside that is fixed to get the tone out of this instrument. And in terms of the instrument itself, it always mesmerizes me when I see the flute makers make it, because as and when they pierce each hole, they start getting a new tune out of it. So if we have to speak about music in an absolute, um, I wouldn't say scientific way, but in terms of how it is engineered, it is all about sound frequencies, and it is all about what is the distance between each frequency that makes a swara or a tune or a note. So if like we keep hearing vehicle honks or we hear someone shout, and that doesn't sound melodious, but if we play one note on an instrument, that might sound melodious. That's because the way how the frequency is placed and the sustain so the how it is sustained, and the way how the notes are formed, and we have relative frequencies which we put together, and then those are called the notes. And then if you move away like 440 hertz, when you keep moving away, you keep getting different tunes. So when they make this instrument, they actually like, if I have to explain a YouTube video that I have seen, or rather, I actually go to my flute makers, but I haven't been going because of COVID. I couldn't travel to India. I'm still stuck in Australia. So when they make the instrument, they first have this blowing hole that is drilled in, and then they go one by one. So I would like to give an example of how it will sound if nothing was there, and then let's say we increase one by one. So this is with nothing, and it will sound something like. And then when we have another hole that is drilled in, we just need to lift this because basically that is how it is done. And one more. So that is how exactly the instrument is made as well. And it is this music theory and the art of learning the instrument that makes it a melodious tone, and then we can produce whatever we want with unlimited possibilities. And in specific to this instrument, I would like to say this is the only 100% natural instrument, because we it is made up of bamboo and there is nothing else on this. But we, if you're wondering what this is just some nylon threads to make it look beautiful. So from this instrument, it I perceive this as a kind of yoga, because it is all about breathing, and this instrument speaks about the character of the person who is playing it, or the characteristic features of the music that they are playing, because the way how we breathe is what others hear, and the way how we move our fingers is how quick you can hear the differentiation of notes, and the longer we hold is the deeper you can feel the music. So, combining all these things together, in terms of music, we say we should have Shruti and Laya. So, basically, Shruti is what we are currently hearing. This is a drone that we all are hearing. I hope we are all hearing it. I've purposely left it for this entire session. So, we have the basic note set for our entire discussion. And when I increase this, so we have a natural tanpura or the shruti aspect of music, and laya is basically like the tempo, or it is something that is you can have one full discussion session on laya, like what is laya, how it is perceived. But to keep it very short, it is like a rhythmic pattern, I would like to say, that can go along. Because if I have to show the difference between just shruti and then how we can introduce laya, I'll just play probably few seconds of shruti like individual notes, and then laya where I combine the notes and I play something. I'll keep it simple and major scale if someone wants to know what it is in western
Sure.
music or shankara bharana. But I wouldn't play like pure Carnatic classical Shankara Bharana because that has Gamaka aspects in that. I'll just try to keep it straight.
All right.
So that was a brief demonstration of how we have every note individually, and then what happens when you combine it and then you build a story out of it. So this is how the instrument is made and how we can combine that to create music of what we desire.
It's a wonderful, a brief but very impactful demonstration. Thanks for that. And well, I think to appreciate music, it is not at all necessary to have a special musical taste or to understand the art of music. You don't even have to learn music, right? So, but it is worth understanding how one can use music to control our mood and improve our emotional state, because that is also a topic that we have chosen: change your music, change your mood, right? So I was recently reading an article in positive journal of positive psychology, which it conducted a study, I think around 6 7 years back, which discovered that individuals who listen to music could be classified as happy and upbeat, and were able to improve their mood and overall happiness in just about few weeks. So what I would request now is, um, we would love to listen to your performance, probably a little longer one, because we have had just brief performances, one with the Ganesha Suti, and second with a small demonstration. What I would, or rather, we would love listening to is a little bit longer demonstration. Probably, if you could choose one raga, you can talk about what a raga represents and its significance, and tell us about what does a raga constitute. Maybe you can choose any raga of your choice, any song of your choice, but I would prefer a popular note, popular song, either Vata Piganapatim of composed in Hamsadhvani, or any other popular song that you're comfortable playing now. Talk about what raga is and how does influence, and how does music influence one's emotions.
Absolutely, sir. So If I have to go into the specifics of how music can um, add on to our mindset, where we feel much more lively and where we are in the moment, I think it goes back into the actual aspect of music, where traditionally or in the ancient times, music was used as a tool for people to cure diseases as well. And when we speak about that, one of the most popularly used, like these days we can find music therapy and all these other things coming up, but the scientific research, the department of numerology, all of these people are significantly studying on how certain frequencies or certain tunes can impact the nerve cell of the brain, which is actually in charge of our happiness. And one of the main aspect of it is that while we listen to music, we always associate that with a memory, and we tend to relish that once again. But what I always tell everyone I come across is that when you listen to music, let go of your thoughts, but don't judge what your thoughts are. That is when you actually detox yourself, and that will give you more space. That's like cleansing your disk to create more space for you to be more in the moment with whatever you do. So keeping that in mind, I am actually thinking which raga, but as you mentioned, Hamsadvani is Vatapi, Ganapatim Bajeham.
Anything of your choice. But one point which you've mentioned is quite interesting. You said most of the times we relate music with one of our memories. It could be a childhood, a lost childhood, or it could be about a lost love. It could be about any other emotion. That I mean, it's something which is relatable for me too. But then your suggestion is to declutter your mind. Keep it away from all such thoughts and listen, and not to be judgmental about what is being listened to at a moment, and be at the moment, right? It's a great point for, I think, staying focused, and that's also one of the reasons why you consider music as yoga, right? It's a wonderful thought. I think probably you could demonstrate that with any of your performance too.
Yes, definitely. And I would, um, I'm still thinking which raga actually. And probably once I start, I might play and then I'll get back into the specifics of it. But however, to whoever is listening to this session, um, if you can create a quiet atmosphere for yourself, please do go ahead. Or if you have any earphones, then please use that. And we always focus on our goals, our materialistic objectives, or getting through our education. But one thing that I always ask everyone is take some time out. And there is something that is extremely hard for you to do once you start focusing on that, and that is breathing. So we involuntarily breathe a lot, but if we have to focus on your breathing, then that's when you find it harder, and you find it as the biggest challenge. Because if I ask all of us to like let go of everything, just focus on your breathing and stay for 2 minutes, I'm sure we'll fall dizzy. But what we'll do is we'll just try to forget everything that has been happening around us, and then just try to focus on breathing, and then listen to this tune that comes along, and feel free to bring in any of your emotions that come along the way with the tune. And I'll be playing a raga in brief and probably expanding that. It is a very generic raga. Thinking of something that conveys a happy tune and a longingness in a positive tone.
Great, wonderful. Last 20 minutes was like in a trance. It took us to another world altogether. And I think for me personally, this is enough to re-energize for the next 1 week. Wonderful, great. I'm not a person to comment about your music, but it was a wonderful performance listening to you for the past 20 minutes. It was rather a very detailed demonstration of what the possibilities of music are in taking us to another world. Before I move on to the next question, I have just two quick questions, which I think I overloaded the introduction and asked so many questions, which because of which we were not in a position to respond. Number one, where do you work currently? Because I think you switched your job and then you're currently into analytics. I'm slightly going off track because I wanted the audience to understand that despite doing BCom, despite pursuing a master's degree, uh, following a passion is also possible. Your personal life, your professional life, and your musical life all are blended together. So, what is your current profile? What do you do currently?
In terms of my professional life, I still work at GPC Asia Pac. So we are the biggest aftermarket automotive spare part industry. So I work in the automotive space, and previously I worked in the finance team. So I worked as a financial accountant, and within that team, now I'm working as a commercial finance analyst. So it is within the core business, but it is much more towards the data analytical side, and then how we analyze the commercial growth of the business, and then where we have all these financial planning and analysis coming through. And I deal a little more onto the technical side of the business,
Okay,
which
one small suggestion, Subramanya. If you could come closer to your microphone, because there are comments receiving from the audience that your performance is quite audible and loud, but when you speak, the voice is little feeble. If you could adjust that.
is this
Yes,
better?
better, better, very good, super.
Yes. Yeah, I
Okay,
just had to increase my volume. Sorry. It
okay.
was a small change in the volume.
All right, all right. Thank you. Thanks for that. Another question, which I quickly, before I wanted to elaborate, I wanted you to elaborate about the raga part of the music. Uh, you said you are also associated with the Ministry of Culture as the Australian government, whatever they've been doing post pandemic. Could you just brief us about what your interventions are, musical interventions are? I remember in one of our conversation, you said it is also keeping in line with the mental well-being awareness aspect, which the government is currently focusing on post-pandemic. Could you just elaborate a little more about what you do? What does the government do over there?
Yes. So, with my limited experience, I was given the opportunity to work in partnership with several organizations in Australia and the local city councils. After which, I developed a relationship with the council that I live in, and I live in the precinct which comes under city of Monash. So through Multicultural Arts Victoria, which is an organization for multicultural arts, and on my spare time as well, I am on the community panel of people who are responsible for providing ideas to the local council on how they can invest in the community's mental health and well-being in general. So in Australia, especially, I'm not sure about the Indian statistics, but lately we have received a huge number of callers who were initially when COVID happened, the hotline was filled in where people were going crazy sitting at home,
Yeah,
and they needed some sort of mental uh, like like a getaway
yeah,
or virtual getaway. And that's when I came up with an idea of presenting these online Bansuri meditation sessions, where the whole idea was like something which we similarly experienced before, but I did not choose like a typical Carnatic raga, as I had to like um, adopt myself to the local community where I can communicate in a similar language of music. And that's where we spent a lot of time on a weekly basis in understanding That though we are sitting here, like I might be sitting in Australia and yourself in India, back in Bangalore, we don't have any boundaries, or we don't need visa to travel
True.
anywhere across this universe, but we just need an avenue to travel. So I was majorly involved in creating this for the community where we come together and then we understand the importance of mental health. I think coming from the Indian background, where my experience is, if it's something that I have done as well. Like if someone says that they are stressed, we just disregard, but it is actually, I think mental health is as serious as your physical health or your physical illness. So there is nothing wrong in being treated or taking care of your mental health, because that will then add on to your physical health as well. There is no point in we focusing in going to gym and then getting our muscles exercised but still coming back home feeling lonely.
Right.
But we can always take care of ourselves from within, and we can be filled with ecstasy and then get out and spread the positivity. So
Yeah.
that is one of the main reasons why I'm working with the council to introduce the Indian classical art form, which is the Indian music, and how these ragas were presented to cure certain illnesses. But because I'm not a mental health expert and I'm not into that profession, I am just going as an artist, and I'm saying that whoever would like to come and join, they can come join, just sleep, relax, do what you want with this session, but enjoy yourself,
Right.
and then go back carrying one positive thing with yourself and then spread that across. Because during pandemic we are all used to being in lockdown, and now that we are coming out, every 1 in 5 mental health callers are complaining that the office is calling us back in. So we are stressed because we are used to working from home. I don't want to invest that much of time in commuting because I know that I can do the same job sitting home. And because of which I am now closely working with several other councils here, where they have an economic recovery plan. And of course Australian population is a lot more lesser compared to India, and over here we have like robust systems where um, they value every member's feedback in terms of community considering the population density. And we look at the multicultural hubs, we go there and then we present these cultural events. So we get people who are interested in the cultural events to attend the event while they support the local businesses across surrounding that geographical area. So this is another active project that I'm working on, where we are trying to push arts and culture for an economic recovery. And this is a long-term plan. I wouldn't say it is a long-term plan in terms of the government itself, because it is 2025, like it's like vision 2025, and 2025 will come by in another 2 3 days, I would say.
Yeah. Wonderful. So I think post pandemic, a lot of people have understood the importance not just of physical well-being but also about the mental well-being, and people have also taken a lot of time for self-care, and this self-care I believe is not selfish. I mean it is needed, which of late probably this was an opportunity, or rather a watershed year for us, all of us, for the globe, the people around the globe, to understand the importance of self-care too. Now that you've responded to the two questions, one about your profession and how you balance your life, and two about what you do, what sort of musical interventions do you do. I just have another question connecting to your performance. Music actually, I believe, stimulates the part of brain that produces something called dopamine, right? The dopamine hormone, the hormone that affects our emotional behavior and mood. And the influence of music is both, I believe, both behavioral and neural, which means that music not only affects the mood, but also affects what we can control ourselves. And I've had on a lot of occasions listening to music, it helped me stay sane, right? So my next question is, what makes you choose the raga you play for a concert? Because now, when I asked you to perform, when I asked you to demonstrate, you took some time to identify a raga, which I um, understand is Yamuna Kalyani, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, I
Uh,
just played
yeah.
Kalyani. Yes.
And that's a raga in which Krishnani Beganai Baro is also composed, right?
Yes,
And
it has a small change. It moves on to Yemen, and
okay, slightly. Okay. So my point here is, my question here is, what makes you choose the raga, and how does your mood influence what you play? How does your mood influence how you rehearse? Because sometimes you may not be in a good mood, but these are performing art is something which you'll have to constantly rehearse, right? So how does your mood impact what music you perform, you learn, you rehearse?
yep, that is actually a brilliant question. So there are times when I don't practice because of my mood again. I don't feel like playing music. That's when I listen to music.
And
But
I think it's absolutely fine. Not to do anything is also fine.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
And
definitely.
another point which I just wanted to mention is, you said we need to fix an appointment with ourselves at least once in a month or once in a week, if possible, right? So that we are cut off from all other routines, and then we take a break and help us be what we are, right?
Yes, sir, absolutely. And assuming we have more of our uni students attending, like it is really important for us, especially with I've been there, done that, CIA and internal assessments, and then our mid-semester exams. It goes around, comes by, and I think one big advantage of Christ University is they have the festivals happening year round, and they also encourages a lot to travel for festivals. And this is something I picked up on during my time at Christ University as well. Like, as much as we are focused in our education, it is really crucial for our holistic development. And I would definitely thank Christ University for giving that opportunity, because if I look back, one of the places that always encouraged me was when I was in again at Christ University. I was a part of Darpan. I think In Bloom was the intercollegiate festival where we had all the other colleges coming through, and that was like it motivated me to focus on my studies a lot more, because I knew that there is something else coming up soon for which I'll have to practice and rehearse. And getting an opportunity to be the best instrumentalist, like I was lucky enough to get that award for like 3 consecutive years, but
Wonderful.
then that kept motivating me to move further and further and then develop myself within the instrument, because once you start doing something and when you see the audience is responding to that, that's when you want to develop yourself more so you can give them something different. And which I would like to connect to my next phase is, what do I decide, or how do I decide what to play when I come in front of the crowd or when I have been requested to perform. So these actually depend on where I am performing and what audience I get. So if I'm performing between 11:30 p.m. to 3 a.m., which I usually do at the clubs over here, I wouldn't think of anything. I just go with the crowd because it's like a party mode that is on. However, I do this Dawn Raga series. It happens at 7:30 in the morning. That's where we have like a crowd that comes in to relax and enjoy the session. So these are the ones that are much more slower paced, and I prefer to choose. It is kind of a unique way of putting this, but because Melbourne is extremely exposed to the extreme weather conditions,
Hmm.
I choose the ragas at times depending on the weather as well. Like
Okay.
if it is too hot, then I do challenge myself to play something. But if it is chilling or if it is freezing, then I want to play a raga that I'm absolutely comfortable, which probably has like all the major notes, as that doesn't need me to move my fingers a lot. As we can see, it doesn't have anything on this. So if I have to produce a minor or a semitone, I have to move it partially. So during winters, I can't even feel where my fingers are moving.
Ah,
So I might choose a raga that I just have to completely cover it and play. And there are some ragas which I can choose to play which can be understood by everyone. Like I played Yaman or Kalyani. So if someone wanted to interpret this raga in their Western scale, it will be like a major note with a sharp fourth, which like ta 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 instead of ta na na na. So we
hmm.
have a sharp fourth, and
Okay.
then ta da na 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 na. And this usually sets happy, more than happy tune. Probably it sets a tune for love, affection, or
Okay.
something to care about.
Can I cut your conversation? Can we listen to a different genre, maybe a bit of Western, or anything that other than the traditional Carnatic music genre of music?
I Yes, sure, definitely. I'll try. I'll try to play few different things, and I'll choose Raga Kirwani because that is
All
like
right.
a universal raga for every genre of music I play. This is a piece I played with an Afghani group when I was
I
traveling
remember.
around.
Yeah, I've seen that video. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was one of the compositions that I
Okay.
played with some of the Afghani musicians when I traveled. And usually, if I go to a jazz lab over here, because I typically play the Carnatic style, I just try to blend in with them. But one of the compositions that we have played is something like this. So that's it. Just sets the tune, and then you can develop yourself how much ever you want from there on.
Yeah. Actually, I don't feel like stopping you in between and or to cut your performance, but then because of the interest of, or probably in the interest of time, I have to. But there are a couple of questions more before we wrap up. See, an increased level of cortisol is the problem for modern society. When I say cortisol, it's a body's main reason for stress. It's called the stress hormone, right? And there are several reasons, and it's quite subjective to people. There are several reasons which leads to such stress, and it can be challenging as well to reduce it. However, I think the right music, what we listen to in the morning or at the end of the day, can actually normalize the level of this hormone. And traditionally, or going by the literature of the traditional music, there are, as you have illustrated, there are pre-dawn ragas, or for instance, Bhairav. I believe there are different variants of Bhairav. Ragas like Bilaval are sung at 10 a.m. or before that, or because the sun is bright, and so are the notes of this raga. And similarly, there are several other ragas which are performed from in the dawn or in the dusk. So listening to a very short performance of uh, maybe anything of your choice, of an early morning raga, something which one should be listening to in the early morning, just to keep ourselves sane. Any suggestions, any genre of music, any raga that one should be listening early morning?
So, in terms of the ragas and its time frame, I think it is much more predominantly followed in the Hindustani style of
Right.
playing. So, even if we try to get the material, we might be getting a lot more on the Hindustani side of music, because the only reason is that Carnatic is, though we have some ragas specific to the time frame, it is not like extensively followed by everyone, especially with the performers. And then if I have to choose something for an early morning raga, I would choose something like Bauli, and that is only because you can imagine a sunrise, as you rightly mentioned previously. I would imagine a mountain sunrise and a small village somewhere on the regional side. I'm pretty sure it's really hard to imagine that being in Bangalore, especially these days with a lot of construction happening, but still we can try to imagine that. I'll just play a brief
Yeah.
tune probably
And
for
also,
you.
please suggest a few ragas that one should be listening to
Yes.
in the
So
early morning.
the raga that I played Yaman, it's called as a raga, or sorry, I played Kalyani, that anyone can listen to at any given time during the day. And they are like ragas like Bauli, and then similar ragas to Bauli is something that I would always recommend for us to listen in the morning time, which has a combination of the major and the minor notes. When I say that, it has like both Kaishiki and Kakali,
Kakali Nishad.
and it has like Shuddha Swaras and Sadharana Swaras as well coming through. So that's just a brief demonstration of how the raga sounds,
I could actually visualize the sun rising.
with some birds chirping on the side.
Yes, yes, great. So another thing which I'm really curious to know, and this is also for the students who are watching, how do you balance your personal, professional, and musical life? Probably you could demonstrate a typical day in your life, like how much time do you practice, how much time do you devote for your professional life, and of course there are several other things which you would be interested doing in your lives. How do you do that? Because I ask this because the greatest of regret, if at all I have any, is that I, because of the lack of time that I have for those things which interest me, which includes even music, which I'm trained for almost 18 years, but I don't find time. How do you manage your time?
This is kind of a tricky question to me, because I think after we realize what our passion is, and once we have learned to a stage where we can't let go of it, then we will stick to it whatever may come and go. So currently, I am working through an extensive transition phase in my workplace, because I'm still moving into this role, and I spend a lot of time at work. And I hope my mother doesn't shout at me after this. Her complaint is that I don't speak to them that often these days because I'm so busy. But that is only because
So is
there
my
are,
mother. No,
yeah.
no, very different.
Yeah, and then I get like she tells me off if I don't practice as well. So it goes either ways. And so the thing is, as all the other university students might connect with me, we have an extensive timetable that we might plan, and it will go exactly opposite of what we have planned. So there are some days where I have planned to get up as early as possible and then finish few things before I leave for my work, but unfortunately it doesn't happen for whatever reasons. But if I have to speak about a typical day in my life, what I have done is that I have scheduled some of my flute lessons early in the morning. So this gives me some time for me to get up early, and that actually pushes me to rise early in the bed. And these are students learning probably from US or other parts of Australia, because their timings is suitable to my early morning around 6:37. So I get up by 6:30 and then do my lessons and then get ready, go for my work. And of course, from 9 to whatever time I'm at work, it is my company's time. It's not my personal time, apart from my lunch hour. So when I drive, I listen to music. During my lunch, I listen to music. And then I do watch some Netflix series at times. And when I get back home, because I'm here by myself, I have to cook, clean, everything comes into picture. And once you, I think once we start becoming a little more responsible on this side, that's when it pushes us to do actually what we want to do. And
Agree.
that in a way makes us realize that we have limited time. We might include 100 more things to do in a day, but unfortunately someone in the past said that we only have 24 hours in a day. So there is no way for us to extend that. But I think being present in the moment, like if I'm practicing flute, I tend to focus 100% on flute. Like dedicating your time to whatever you absolutely do for that time period is absolutely necessary. So once we do that, we keep on moving, and then we realize only after we look back after a few years, we realize that yes, we have done something. But while we do it, it is really hard for us to get that sense of satisfaction, especially being a musician. Sir, I'm sure you are one of this as well. Like how much ever you practice, how much ever you play, you're never satisfied. So apparently I've heard from someone that when someone asked yeah Rahman, which was the most memorable and which is the best performance you have given, he said that it is going to be my next one, hopefully. So it's just like that. Like we just hope that someday we reach that stage where we feel like we have achieved something. But I think we should definitely celebrate the milestones that we have reached, and we should always look forward to keep on continuously doing things that we are doing, and that will automatically give us more motivation to do a lot more.
Great. Music, just as you've said, for me too, is several things which I cannot clearly articulate. But music tends to hit us, mm, I think most of us, on a very deep level, whether it is sad music that helps us to feel relatable when we are going through hard times, or joyful music that adds an extra bounce to your next step, or music is incredibly powerful, right? So that's how significant it is, or how intertwined and complex it is to define. Um, but my next question is, what for you is your definition of music? Um, I'm sounding a little academic. Of course, being an academician, I think I should be asking such questions too. How do you define music? What for you is music? What is the importance of music in your life?
um, I am actually put on spot right now. If I have to think about a definition, I would definitely say like I can't imagine myself without music. But if I have to define that, I would say it's just a frequency that keeps me going.
Wonderful. I mean, the spontaneity is what I wanted. I
Yes.
don't want a sort of, I mean, that makes a lot of sense, right? Well, another aspect of it is that in a mood to rewind the melodies ranging from the iconic tunes of, let's say, Raja or A.R. Rahman, which you just mentioned about, or R.D. Burman, or Celine Dion's rendition by the Spaniards in their balconies, which had happened during the pandemic times. Music has proved to be a constant companion, which has its therapeutic and healing power, especially in the past several months working from home. I too, as you're well aware that I too listen to different genre of music, whether it's Tony O'Connor or Kenny G or Band Shakti. There are several genre of music. Similarly, as I just mentioned, during the pandemic times, there were balcony concerts, if you remember, yeah, which have been a big hit among, I think, in Italy and Spain for many musicians. Um, Several of them had actually lost their job because any performing art, for that matter, you need a platform to perform, and that becomes your source of income. I remember one of another Christite who's also very popular singer in Bangalore, Vishal Anand Reddy. You met him when we hosted an event at the cafe. So he was saying that many musicians have lost their source of income during the past pandemic, or I mean, which is still on. And just because of their passion for their music, they continued, they stayed, they didn't switch their job. So how has this pandemic for you, or what new lessons have pandemic taught you, or what have been your experience both dealing with music and also your mental health during the past couple of months?
Um, Initially, when the pandemic hit, we went into lockdowns, and that's when I was personally stressed because being a performer, I'm always used to performing for live audience,
Yeah.
and it never came to my mind that we can do online performances. Though I have done so many recordings, and then there are some videos on YouTube or whatnot, but it never came into my mind that we can do something online. And I was just randomly reaching out to organizations and then asking what is how is it looking for them? Like how much business have they lost, or how are they planning out? And that's when I heard of all these online series that they had started. Luckily, because I am currently living in Australia, again, it is specific to the density population and then how much the government is supporting, and not being very political. Like there are some reliefs that the government has given. I'm pretty sure there is something similar in India as well to support the local artists. So I was fortunate to receive a government grant. It was called a Quick Response COVID-19 grant that was in specific to do a project while we are in lockdown, which is COVID safe. So that motivated me. That was my starting point, because when I got an email from my council saying that there is this money that is available to the public, but you have to tell us what you're going to do with this money during the pandemic that will impact the community for the betterment of all the people living within this community, or even the bigger crowd. So when I got into this, that's when I started thinking what differently I can do. And then I came up with these meditation series, which is like an online meditation series, which still can't justify a live performance. But changing times called for like different avenues of performing, which kept me going. And that's where I found myself easing into it and then being a lot more relaxed when I performed for the crowd. Though I could only see my laptop as the audience for me, I knew that there were several people sitting behind their laptops like me and then watching me through that. And that kept me going, and that's how I have been doing. After the COVID has come down, now I'm working towards an economic recovery plan through which art and culture is encouraged. So this has clearly shown me that either we are into the pandemic or out of pandemic or any sort of a catastrophic um, event that might occur, art and culture would never stop,
Right.
and we still need to keep it going.
Yeah. Great work. It was a pleasure to know about your experiments. You were never dejected, and I think you not just kept your spirit alive, but also several others, including me. I've listened to some of your online events as well. So, may I just know what your plans and ambitions, your musical experience are in your life ahead? You could also elaborate some of your forthcoming projects, anything that you have in mind? Or even,
Um,
okay, one more thing. I think the audience should also know this. What with I remember Kalarva or Kolarva. I forgot the name of the album which you'd gifted long back. So there were certain albums that you've worked with, collaborated with. You could mention about what you've done so far and also what projects are forthcoming.
Yes. So currently, uh, because after I came into Australia, like it is a multicultural hub, like we have people coming from all destinations and then coming here to perform. I have had the opportunity to travel with them across Australia, and the projects that are forthcoming are mostly towards an economic recovery, and then it is probably it is put in a different format, or the way how they advertise the event is different, but the main intention is for an economic recovery. I'm sure the entire globe is trying towards an economic recovery,
Yeah,
and I am also working on a project which, if any of my friends are listening to this, they might laugh at me later, but that's fine. I committed myself towards delivering an online podcast series, which
oh,
I haven't, and I have actually put that on a hold for a long time because of my work and whatever that is happening. However, I was waiting for some equipment to come through, and then now I'm trying to work on a series which actually is on how we can adopt music for our mental well-being, and how anyone, even without having any knowledge of music, can still feel the same way that a absolutely professional musician can feel through music. So this is what I'm working towards, and hopefully it'll come out soon. So I decided to go with 10 segments, and I have completed one, so I have 9 more to go, honestly. So I'm working towards that. I hope I get that done soon.
really interesting. So before I conclude with one final question or probably my comment or observation, I think the audience would also be interested listening to a film music and something which, or so to say, a popular music. Anything, any songs, anything that you're comfortable playing right now, which comes to your mind right now?
Sure, sir. I'll try to play a few different songs.
Yeah, perfect.
Yep. Just like a small mashup.
Yeah. don't have words. But I think, in addition to the fear of the virus and the elevated stress levels due to the several things or several developments which had happened, like physical distancing measures, many people had faced, and I think even continue to face, reduced income or unemployment. The need to combine working from home with childcare duties, uncertainty about the future, and above all, I think social isolation. Evidence is accumulating for several negative mental health impacts, and I think it has led to anxiety, depression, stress, loneliness, impaired even sleep quality. And I think there are so many things which I've heard my friends, my colleagues, my relatives, talking about. But I think participating in musical activities, or probably an interaction like this, has been associated with reduced anxiety and increased well-being. Probably this pandemic and the resultant lockdown also made us realize the value of music more than self-care, more than mental health, the value of music in personal and social well-being, because music has helped many to cope with this lockdown, help them to relax, escape, raise their mood, or keep their spirits alive. And there are research evidences too, which says that music can be used as a tool to increase the psychological well-being of people. So just as music may help to consolidate people's sense of identity, it also enables our cognitive and rational intentions, of aesthetic enjoyment, right? This musical experience, or this musical journey with you, was really, really fruitful. Thank you very much for having found time. Your Sundays, I know, every time when we have a conversation, you used to say that you're jam packed from 9 o'clock till 1:30. You have your classes happening with your students all across the globe, but still you managed to find time for your alma mater. Thank you very much. Deep gratitude, and wishing you all the best on behalf of the School of Commerce, Finance, and Accountancy. Uh, do stay in touch. Do give us more performances. Do interact with us with more of your live performance. All the best on behalf of the university, on behalf of the department, especially from where you graduated. We thank you. We are greatly indebted to you. Let's continue this journey of music. Let's have one concluding performance. No comments, but only performance. With that, we can wind up.
I would definitely love to play. Thanks a lot for providing this opportunity before I forget. And sir, you have been a massive support, and it is really a main source of my encouragement and motivation to continue what I'm doing. And a big thanks to Christ University, because of which I'm here today. One of my favorite compositions, and similar to the raga that we have already heard, but Yaman.
Subramanya, I think you are a great testimony for the fact that if you're passionate about what you're doing, it is possible to blend, it is possible to pursue your personal, professional life, and also continue, you know, having a full life. And I think that is the greatest takeaway, especially for the students I'm hinting, and also for me personally, that it is possible to do that. Thank you very much and wish you all the best for all what you're planning to do ahead in your life. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot for organizing this.